What if your trusted doctor, the person you rely on for health advice and care, turned out to be a cold-blooded killer? This is the unbelievable true story of Dr. Harold Shipman, also known as Dr. Death over 2 decades. Shipman, a family doctor, killed over 200 of his patients, perhaps even more, using a deadly drug, all while continuing his practice undetected. His crimes shook the world and changed the way medical professionals are monitored forever. Harold Shipman was born on January 14, 1946, in Nottingham, England. From an early age, he had a close bond with his mother, Vera. When Shipman was 17, Vera was diagnosed with lung cancer, and he witnessed firsthand how doctors treated her with morphine to relieve her pain in her final days. This experience would haunt him for the rest of his life, and many believe it was the catalyst that set him on the path to becoming one of the most prolific serial killers in history. Vera's death left a deep emotional scar on Shipman, but it also instilled in him a desire to become a doctor. He attended Leeds University, where he studied medicine and began his career as a general practitioner, GP. Shipman seemed like the perfect family doctor, professional, reliable, and well-liked by his patients. But beneath the surface, dark urges were brewing. In 1974, Shipman began working in a small town called Todmorden in West Yorkshire. It was there that his addiction to drugs first came to light. Shipman was caught forging prescriptions for pethidine, a powerful painkiller similar to heroin. He was fined for his actions, and after undergoing rehabilitation, he was allowed to return to practicing medicine. However, this incident was just the tip of the iceberg in Shipman's twisted career. In 1977, Shipman moved to the town of Hyde near Manchester, where he established his own medical practice. Over the next 2 decades, he became a beloved figure in the community, known for his dedication to his patients and his willingness to take on heavy workloads. His patients, mostly elderly women, trusted him completely, unaware that their doctor was secretly ending their lives. Shipman's method of murder was chillingly simple. He would visit his patients, often at their homes, and administer a lethal dose of morphine. Morphine is a powerful drug used to relieve severe pain, but in large quantities, it can cause death by slowing down breathing and stopping the heart. Many of Shipman's victims were found sitting upright in their chairs or slumped over on couches, looking as if they had peacefully fallen asleep. Their deaths were often attributed to natural causes, and because of Shipman's trusted position as a doctor, no one suspected foul play. For years, Shipman continued to kill undetected, but in 1998, cracks began to appear in his carefully constructed facade. Local undertakers noticed that a disproportionate number of deaths were occurring among Shipman's patients. What's more, many of the deceased had died in similar circumstances, alone, fully dressed, and seated in their homes. Despite these suspicions, it was not until the death of Kathleen Grundy, an 81-year-old former mayor of Hyde, that Shipman's murderous activities came to light. Grundy had been one of Shipman's patients, and when she died, her family was shocked to discover that her will had been changed to leave most of her estate to Shipman. This unusual development prompted Grundy's family to request an autopsy. The results were damning. Grundy had died of a morphine overdose, administered by none other than Dr. Harold Shipman. This discovery set off a chain of events that led to Shipman's downfall. The police launched a full investigation into the deaths of Shipman's patients, and the results were staggering. Over the course of his career, Shipman had murdered at least 218 people, though some estimates suggest the number could be as high as 250. His victims range in age from 41 to 93, but the majority were elderly women living alone. Shipman's motives remain unclear to this day. Some experts believe he was driven by a need for control and power, as he enjoyed playing the role of God, deciding when his patients would live or die. Others speculate that his actions were influenced by the trauma of watching his mother die under the influence of morphine, and that he became obsessed with the drug's ability to end suffering and life. As the investigation continued, more bodies were exhumed, and it became clear that Shipman had been falsifying medical records to cover his tracks. In many cases, he claimed that his patients were gravely ill, even though they were in good health. He also lied about calling ambulances and made up stories about his patients' last moments. Shipman's arrogance and sense of superiority, traits that had developed during his childhood, were evident throughout his trial. He denied all charges and showed no remorse for his actions, maintaining his innocence even in the face of overwhelming evidence. In 2000, Harold Shipman was convicted of 15 counts of murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But the true extent of his crimes was much larger than what he was convicted for. An official inquiry into Shipman's career concluded that he had killed at least 218 patients, making him one of the most prolific serial killers in modern history. However, some experts believe the number of victims could be as high as 250. Shipman's trial and conviction sent shockwaves through the medical community, prompting significant changes in the way doctors are monitored in the UK. New regulations were introduced to prevent doctors from having unchecked access to dangerous drugs, and stricter oversight of patient deaths was implemented to ensure that no doctor could exploit their position of trust as Shipman had done. Even after his conviction, Shipman's legacy continued to haunt the families of his victims. Many were left wondering whether their loved ones had died naturally or if Shipman had played a role in their deaths. The uncertainty and grief caused by his actions cannot be understated, and for many, justice came too late. In January 2004, Harold Shipman was found dead in his prison cell. He had hanged himself with his bed sheets just a day before his 58th birthday. His death closed the final chapter in one of the darkest stories in medical history, but it left many questions unanswered. Why had Shipman chosen to kill? What had driven him to betray the trust of his patients and their families so completely? And how had he managed to evade detection for so long? Harold Shipman's crimes shocked the world and forever changed the way medical professionals are held accountable. His story serves as a chilling reminder that sometimes those we trust the most can be the ones who betray us in the worst possible way. If you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe the channel.